Let's go ahead and get started then. We'll call the March 13th Appropriations Committee to order. Today we're here to talk about the 2023 Capital Improvements Plan. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to somebody over on that side of the room who would like to take this on.
So I'm going to kick it off. So thank you all for taking the time to come meet with us and hear about the 2023 Capital Appropriations Plan. I'm just going to start with a couple of overviews. Jeremy. So first of all, as we develop the capital plan within your booklet that you'll see, and once it is adopted, then we will also publish an updated copy that will include a couple of other items. But what you have in front of you is the 2023 through 2027 capital detail spreadsheets. So those are the ones that fold out and you get a lot of the detail. And then 2028 through 2032, we just put together kind of smaller sheets so that we didn't use as much paper. You can still get kind of the overview of it. You have the department breakdowns. And then something that was previously done that we've brought back kind of at the request of the auditor's office, but definitely think it's a great idea to add in, is you will see in the back of the book, you have for 2023 only, we did capital request project sheets. So for each project that we have listed, we provided more detail on project timeline, brief description, the breakdown of funding, if previously funding has been contributed to the project, if any additional funding will be contributed or requested for the project. And those can be utilized going forward. And then one item that's not included in here, but that I wanted to reference, we've talked about it a little bit previously, is that the administration has been working with all of our department heads to do an assessment of their facilities. And so in your next packet, you will get a breakdown of those assessments, and it will kind of give a summary of all of our facilities, their current condition, and then kind of a score on a variety of items. So like HVAC, electrical, foundation, windows, and all these different things, so that we have we talk frequently about what are the conditions of our facilities, what are projects coming up that may be required of our facilities. And so we put that into kind of a more formal documentation. So that will be included for your review, just so that you guys are aware that, one, we do go through that process, and two, you may see funding requests in the future to address some of the problems that we've identified. Next. Additionally, as we put together the capital requests before you, obviously we work closely with the departments to go through and say, okay, what are your funding needs? What does that look like over time? How do we make sure that we are, one, prioritizing investment in our existing assets? Two, how do we maintain and invest our vehicles and equipment, as well as like maintaining our fleet? Something that I want to note, because I ask our team frequently, is, people always say, well, why do we have so many police cars just sitting around? So we follow really the best practice for fleet management in our police department. Very frequently, we have them out for maintenance. They obviously get a lot of wear and tear. So you have to have so many on reserve, so many that are getting worked on a regular basis, so many that are in use over shifts. So we do recognize that we hear people on that, but we are following the best practice. We have worked a little bit to dwindle our fleet, but we're also working with our departments kind of across the city to look for efficiencies in fleet management. Right now, we don't have a formal process for that to track each of the equipment and vehicles, but that is something that we have been discussing and making sure that our teams are paying attention to. If we have a piece of equipment that can be shared among departments rather than having each department have their own and it's sitting 50% of the time, we want to move in that direction to make sure that we're best utilizing our dollars and not having equipment that's very expensive sitting around. And finally, obviously, we want to look at how can we invest dollars into the community that the community sees as desirable, whether it be park improvements or that have an economic impact and can provide additional benefit, which is something that really will be kind of a longer term discussion as we talk about how we want to approach capital spending. All right, so something that we wanted to do is give just a general overview of the capital spreadsheet. Obviously, we have a significant amount of funds, and this is pretty consistent with years past, but what I wanted to show was a breakdown by fund. Now, when you're looking at your capital spreadsheet, you'll recognize that we have each of the different funds, and when you look at sewer, water, and stormwater, they include their annual operations, as well as their debt service coming out of there, so sometimes it can be a little confusing. So I just want to call out, in the proposal of our expenses, excluding restricted operations and debt service, this is the breakdown. So one thing that I think is really neat here is to see, again, how much in grants we are leveraging state and federal dollars to get projects done. I know many times folks say, well, why are we applying for all these grants? Why are we getting all these grants? Are there strings attached? And really, when we're looking at state and federal dollars, they're there for us to take advantage of. Those are our tax dollars that have gone into different pots, and we want to bring them back home to put them to good use. A lot of the water and sewer infrastructure and roadway projects, we would not be in the position that we are in if we weren't leveraging those dollars. So I think it's really good to show, and then it gives you a general idea of kind of the overall other expenses coming out of capital improvements, water, stormwater, and sewer funds. Next. All right, this is showing of the appropriations requests before you today, because again, when you're looking at your overall spreadsheet, that $70 million is all projects that are still in process and that we may be making a request for. That doesn't necessarily mean that we are making a request for all of those projects that are on there. So of the funds that we're requesting today and we'll be discussing, about $21 million is going towards infrastructure projects. About $10 million is going towards facilities, and about $2 million is going towards vehicles and equipment. Next. And finally, looking across all of the projects that we have currently going on, about 46% of those projects are qualified as infrastructure projects. 22%, this does include, this is like that total 70 million when you're looking at it. 22% of those are restricted operations, so water, sewer, stormwater. 4% are vehicles and equipment. 2% are kind of community improvement projects. 1% debt service, and 25% facilities. So again, very well positioned, putting our dollars into infrastructure, our existing assets. I think it's great to see that 1% of the total spend is on debt service, so keeping that low, and then continuing to invest in the community. Next, okay. The next thing you'll see is I just wanted to kind of give a snapshot as you look through the capital spreadsheets that we'll be going through today. When you look at those, a couple of the projects are designated as grants. Those are called out in most cases as the ARPA spend. I just wanted to show, you're going to see we're putting a significant amount of money or recommending a significant amount of money towards the water fund. The water fund is an area of discussion that will continue moving forward. Over $1 million of ARPA money is going towards water fund infrastructure, so the CO2 system as well as the generator that are necessary for the plant. Additionally, you can kind of see the breakdown. Our focus: infrastructure, city operations, health and wellness, and then nonprofit support. And so we'll call those out, but just wanted to provide that as a summary as well. All right. Any questions before I hand it over to Jeremy to start going through the details? All right, Jeremy, it's all yours.
Alrighty, well, thank you. So that way we're not jumping back and forth from the spreadsheet to the project descriptions and all that. We'll kind of use that as a supplementary. So if you guys have questions or anything like that, we can flip back, but I don't want to keep flipping pages back and forth. So what we'll do is we'll go down through here and we'll kind of start at the first page and just go down through the list. I'll kind of hit on some of the high level for the projects for each department. And if, like I said, if you guys have any questions, stop me at any time. If we can't answer it just straight off of this, then we'll flip back to the project description pages. So starting out, debt service, that's kind of our normal stuff. Working with the auditor's office, we get those debt service for the next 10 years. So as you can, when you're flipping through the capital plans for this year and all the way through 32, all those numbers are plugged in there, so you can kind of see what the debt service is for that. Going down to computer service, this technology improvements, that has been a rollover project from last year. That is including additional ARPA money this year with it as well. That is part of, that's actually tied in with multiple other projects throughout the capital plan, if it's not the municipal building, ZecuTime, and some other items that will go along with it. And then 2 remaining items are just regulatory replacements that they have for this year. So police, rolling into that, One of the big ones that we have a project together, is the replacement of the vehicles. With the replacement of the vehicles for 23 and 24, we're going to be using ARPA funds for that. So that's why right now they're not shown as coming out of capital. They are out of that grant category. But if you go back to those project description pages, you can see where the funding is sourced from that. And I have also included 23 and 24 for that, so you can kind of see the next 2 years.
One thing to that, again, trying to utilize ARPA funds for things that we knew we were going to have to invest dollars in, that obviously gives us a little more freedom. Additionally, one of the goals with the ARPA money is trying to do it towards items that are easy to track and not ongoing projects that we would have to follow up on paperwork for years. So allocating this, which is a qualifying expense under ARPA, even though we did our funds as kind of a revenue replacement structure, we don't necessarily have to tie it back to ARPA. We are still trying to kind of tie it back to things that were specifically called out in ARPA, so that we are following kind of the essence of the bill.
So the next couple items on there are just replacement of existing equipment that we have right now. And then at the bottom, you can see we had the body worn camera program. And that is split out between the capital and the grant funds. That will include the OCJS grant, as well as ARPA funds. And we do have that split out for the capital fund wise back in the project descriptions. What we had last week that Rob provided for you guys at council, that was showing the capital as well as operating. I did not put the operating costs into this because I didn't want to confuse the two. So if you kind of want to reference back on seeing what the operating is on that, we can look at those sheets. But for right now, for this discussion, I just have what the capital asked for 23 is included in this sheet.
Jeremy, do we know what our capital expense is going to look like ongoing with this program?
Yep. So I have on those sheets, and I'll actually, if you want to pass out. So we print that sheet back out. So this year we'll be having $25,000 out of the capital. That will be included of our match money and through the grant. And then next year, I believe it was $54,000 roughly. That will be implementing the vehicle cameras. So this year we have to use the match money for the grant that we received for the body worn cameras, and then next year we'll have money set aside for the vehicle cameras. Every year we'll be applying for that OCJS grant, which is a reimbursement. I do not have any of that calculated in because it's not a guarantee, so I wanted to make sure that we had at least enough capital to cover it. So if we are awarded those, that's just kind of if you want to say, a bonus on top of it. So on the body worn cameras, like I said, this year we'll be spending $25,000 out of capital, and next year is $54,493.
And then ongoing from is there a replacement? What does this thing look like going out every 3 years, 5 years?
So it will.
What's the life on these things?
Yep. So the contract that we have is a 5-year contract, and the way the terms are set up, we have maintenance licensing and maintenance fees over those 5 years. At 30 months as well as 60 months, they do a total replacement of equipment. They've learned that the life expectancy are those cadences in a 5-year term. So they've said they're going to totally replace the equipment at the 30 and 60 year or month marks, and then it's a 5-year term. So as you get closer into the 5th year to the end, you renegotiate and move forward with that.
So every 2.5 years we get new equipment.
Correct.
And then obviously we're paying for that someplace. And what's our fee then?
Yeah.
I know it's an expense, not capital, but.
So the way this is set up, the first year of the 5-year term is the capital expenditure, and then after that, it's the next 4 years is it goes into your operating expenses, and that's broke down on that maintenance fees, licensing fees, and things like that is how it's broke out year 2 through 5.
So there's no maintenance or license fees in year 1?
It's part of the way this is broke out, the 5-year term. It's part of that expense in year 1. They
Okay.
just break out the total expense, which is equipment plus licensing plus maintenance over the 5 years.
So in this case, we've got $25,000 in capital. granted 142,000 in ARPA funds coming out of a grant, so a total of $166,000 for the program. If we look at it as, let's not worry about ARPA funds, right? So we would be putting out $166,000 in change to get us started on that.
Yes.
But what you're saying is that if we were doing this all on our own, we wouldn't have that total capital expense. Some of that would go into general expense as the maintenance fee. I'm taking it, the 141,000, some of the ARPA funds are your general maintenance and contract fees.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So there really is maintenance and contract fees in year one.
Yes.
It's just being hidden in the ARPA funds.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what's that number on an annual basis then for our maintenance and license fees?
So it does fluctuate here a little bit. Year one, 2024 is 147,800 and change. Year 2025, it's 153,712,000. 2026, 159,860, and then 2027, it's 166,000 and change.
So said another way, to implement the body cameras and then the dash cameras, it's probably ongoing going to be about $150,000 annual expense, because the way the contract structure, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but like so many other programs, right, you kind of are buying and paying for it over time through your contract period. Now, like Rob said, we get replacement products twice, but we're kind of just spreading that out over time. We would have a 5-year contract for that equipment, maintenance, licensing, and then we would be able to renew with them or go back out to market and look at it. But it was probably going to be right around $150,000 to outfit our team and be able to maintain that. So in the budgets that we presented to you from the operating standpoint, we did build that into our operating budget for next year. And that would be our plan moving forward, is because it's no longer really a capital expense. It really is built into an operational expense. I don't know if the captain or anybody want to touch on that at all, but they both are here because they really have been the ones overseeing this project. Eddie is the one that has really moved into kind of the data maintenance and would be overseeing the equipment from the sergeant standpoint. But I think obviously this is one of those items where we're really seeing it move into more of a expectation of operations. And so I think for $150,000, though, that's definitely not insignificant money. It's well worth it to have this system in place to be able to protect our officers, but also help with efficiencies of prosecuting and being able to provide that information, and hopefully not have our folks every Tuesday having to show up at grand jury because they have the footage. One thing I will also note is, the conversation throughout has been for both body cams and dash cams. We haven't talked a whole lot about the dash cams, but we feel that's pretty important because having multiple perspectives of the situation can be really beneficial. And so that was kind of a request as we went through the demos of the police department, that we not just implement one, but really have both.
So vehicle cams will be starting in 25.
That is our proposal as it stands.
2024,
Oh, 24.
and
I'm
it's
skipping
because
a
of
year.
we would prefer to start them now, but due to supply chain, the vendors it's not going to happen. So let's just get body cams this year, and we'll go and execute dash cams next year.
And just curious, instead of doing the 5-year, if we bought the body cams outright, would we have gotten better pricing? Would we have gotten nothing better?
And I think we've mentioned it in past meetings. The system that we have looked at and would be recommending is I'm going to say it wrong, Axon. Axon. I always want to add letters. Axon. It's what the State Highway Patrol currently utilizes. So our team is already kind of familiar with it. It already has been utilized by the prosecutor's office. So that is good. That there would be less of a learning curve. They work very well. So just wanted to note that as well.
Does the approximately $150,000 in general expense on an annual basis, does that include our storage fees and things like that for all the data that gets stored?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and that gives us all the access and everything that we need. There's nothing else that we're cutting back on. I guess my question is, we're getting what it is that you guys need to make this thing work.
Yeah, the initial was just the body cams, because that was what the grant was after, and that, once we came into final numbers, it was whatever else, I mean, it comes with redaction, so there's other features that came, so that was a la carte, I guess, if you wanna put it that way. So those were evaluated, and if those are available to us at a certain cost, and those are the extra items that would be in addition to that initial cost of total package of that grant.
Okay, so you did get the a la carte items? Okay. Okay,
Yep.
understood. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. So moving along, next one, parking enforcement. You guys probably haven't seen this in the past couple of years. Haven't really had anything for it, so this is a new vehicle for parking enforcement.
Jeremy, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Back to police. The
Yeah.
portable surveillance camera, we're getting a new one or fixing an old one? What's 11,000 doesn't sound like enough for a new one.
That would be, I believe that was a new one.
We need two?
No, replacing. It's a replacement.
The other one? I thought we had one of these things.
We do have a mobile unit. We've been having significant technical difficulties where it has not been operational. It's been fried a couple of times, and so it gets a lot of wear and tear. So it is the recommendation we replace it at this point.
My goodness, we haven't had that thing that long.
And then the
Not that I'm saying that it's not fried, don't get me wrong. But damn.
You would be worn out after 6 years if you sat outside all the time.
I guess
too.
so. I'm worn out and I'm not even outside.
Since he asked about that, the drone, I thought we had a drone that we shared with the fire department. So is this a new drone and specifically for you all? Or am I wrong? Has there always been two drones? I thought,
The city, they share them. It's
So
not
we're adding-
specifically for police or fire. It's a piece of
Yeah.
equipment that they share based on the need.
so that's
And
the
this is
full
a
amount.
controller.
Okay, so the full amount's coming out of the police and no split between.
They but manage that budget for that piece of equipment.
So this is just a new controller for the original drone.
Correct.
Drones are very expensive.
Yes, they are. But very helpful.
They
Yeah.
are.
Yes,
So-
we use ours frequently.
And this allows us to control it better. I mean, what have we been doing for the last 3 years with it? I'm afraid to ask.
Replacement of the existing one.
It's a replacement.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
We can start putting replacement.
Sorry. Yes.
I just,
Good
okay.
question.
Yeah, in the upcoming years, we will have the equipment added in there, but I wanted to at least get the projects in this year, so that way we can keep moving. But that is our goal for moving forward, is to have both projects and equipment, so that way, hopefully we can answer some of these questions right off the bat too for you. All right, so moving down, fire department. So this first one, the AFG, this has went through council. That is a grant that we received for the FY21. That's replacement of 7 Marks radios as well as fire hoses for the fire department. And then this install the CBA. That is another AFG grant. What that is a filling station for the oxygen tanks that they are using. So that will be out at Station 4. Most likely that is going to be in the Strict Center. So we'll be placing there since that is a new structure off itself with the training. And then the roof replacement, like I said, that has went through councils already. I know I don't have it shown on here, but I don't want to skip. I do have all the way over, I know you guys can see it, but all the way over to the right of the paper that are funds that have been appropriated, so that you can see when it was appropriated and what ordinance went with that. And then the next one with that, which has been in council with that, is the remaining funds for the Strict Center, to get that over the edge and get that completed this year. Moving down the engineering,
Jeremy.
sorry.
Strict Center.
Yep.
So we've got 2.4 to go.
No,
this year?
so
No, actually, we've already appropriated 1.5, so we're $1 million.
So the
Or
total
900,000.
project will be 2.4. This final 884,000 is what
Okay.
is necessary to complete the project, and that's what was your first reading on Tuesday night.
Understood. So have we included all of the equipment and stuff that needs to go into that building?
Yes, I asked Chief this. There might be some minor like TVs or like minor equipment, but that the chief said that they'll just wrap into their budget in the future. But the majority of the equipment necessary to get this thing up and running is there.
Is
And
in that
then
80.
Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong to make sure. This also includes the burn building, so that's why you'll see, is the grant funds off to the right there? I should look just right in front of me, huh? That's already been appropriated to the project.
Yeah, so if you look on those project description, I have the, what was the funds last year, because we did receive a CDBG grant for the burn building. So that's why that number, it's 2.4, that's including the burn building with it as well. So that's kind of the CDBG, it's one package with it, but that includes the burn building as well.
Are we going to see a separate operating budget for that?
So I know I think we've talked a little bit about that. Initially, I don't think so, because I don't think we're going to have significant enough like revenues, expenses, but then we would work with the auditor's office to determine if we want to split that out and report it separately, to make sure that we're tracking kind of the cost and revenue associated with it. But at this point in time, that's not our plan.
Okay. So we think, what, another year from now? I mean, we're going to be done. When is this project scheduled to be done, Jeremy?
May?
Up and running?
I think our target is May, June this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and then by the time the burn building gets here in July, it'll be constructed by August. So Strict Center, the actual training center.
Yep.
In summer, early summer.
Okay.
And then the burn building is expected to be delivered and then erected by July.
I wouldn't expect us to be bringing any outside groups in probably until next year. I would expect that the first couple of months will just be focused on Hancock County utilization and kind of getting used to everything, figuring it out, and then potentially in 2024 we would have outside groups utilize it as appropriate.
So, okay. So we'll have a chance to take a look at it and then decide if we want to separate that out in our operating budget or not,
Yeah.
Mr. Auditor. No, that's okay.
Yeah, two things. One would be, we can see how much it is next budget. The second thing is, well, we had a meeting with them on very early on, to make sure our folks understood if they do consulting work on the side, or doing anything that's related to it, they independent just like they paid for city payroll at the same time, so it impact the scheduling for the chiefs. If they have people out there working school and monitors and special things, so we need to see how that all evolves.
That's an interesting quandary. Yeah.
It shouldn't be an issue. What we really envision is if somebody is bringing in an outside group and any of our personnel are necessary, they would just be covering our costs of those folks being there. It would really be a scheduling issue. Our folks understand that they're contracted through the city of Findlay and wouldn't be able to do moonlighting work without consultation with the city beforehand.
Very good. Thank you.
Alrighty, so moving down into engineering, still continuing on with the GIS overhaul. That is a carryover from 22. We are making a good headway with that, so I'm hoping here in the next couple months we can roll that out and start seeing good information from that. As part of it, I do have an office remodel with that. That is for better utilization of our workspaces. Right now I am maxed out and cannot have any more potential interns or any other potential employees. So we've been working, trying to utilize our space. Our records have been spread out across 3 offices. So you know how that is, trying to figure out which office that record is in. So now we have them centralized to one. So that is, kind of as a whole, making sure that the area we have is better utilized. ADA transition plan.
So what are you doing, Jeremy? Are you making everybody's cubicles smaller?
They're a little bit smaller.
Stack.
Yeah.
The wave of the future, bunk beds.
They're
I know we're not making the building any bigger.
no, so the cubicles are going to be smaller, but the utilization of what the capabilities at their desk, they're going to have more file cabinets. Their desk, instead of being 8-foot long fold-up tables, they're actually going to be nice L-shaped with standing ability with it. So it's just we have a hodgepodge, a lot of stuff that's taking up a lot of room. where we could cut, one cubicle I'm thinking of right now, you can cut it into 2 and they'd still have plenty of room. So I've been in communication with all my people and let them know that it will be cut down, but we showed them everything and they're good with it. So,
All right, thank you.
yep. So with that, moving on, ADA transition plan, I know that's been talked quite a bit over the past couple of years. So we will be using ARPA funds to fund that project. So there's a couple projects that has to do with accessibility, ADA, building upgrades and all that kind of stuff. So with this, the ADA transition plan, that is for stuff in the right of way. So that will be getting people from, say, the street to our public buildings. So we'll be looking at public owned buildings, but we will not be going interior. This is all exterior. So with that, we'll have curb ramps. They'll be looking at our policies, traffic signals, all that kind of stuff to go along with the transition plan that should have been, we needed to complete it years ago. So I want to make sure we can get this done. And I know I'm jumping ahead, but another one that is with that is the restroom accessibility. So what that is doing, that's looking at all public-owned restrooms that are used by the public, as well as some other ones, because we had some funds that are used like by police in the basement, but our main focus was used by the public. What that'll be looking at is the interior restrooms on how we need to reconfigure them to be up to ADA and building code. So we've had, RCM has been working on that. We actually had a meeting last week on that, so we have kind of schematics for every single one that we had them look at, so we're moving forwards with that. But what that is it's kind of another supplementary information that's going to go with the ADA transition plan. So ADA transition plan is just, like I said, is the exterior, but a lot of communities, a lot of the bigger cities and stuff, they also include a lot of these in there. So the more information we can have in that, the better. That's going to help us with grant opportunities as well. When we can show we have this information, there's a lot of grants out there that we can grab, and I know I'm going to probably discuss them here in a couple other departments, but because we had that information readily available, we can make sure that we can grab those as we go. So a lot of these projects, like I said before, they do tie into each other, but they're kind of they'll become one at the end. So I know I have restroom facility assessment and also ADA transition plan. They're a common goal, but they're all going to be kind of combined together.
Jeremy, does the ADA accessibility apply to all of our buildings?
So the city restroom accessibility or the ADA transition?
The ADA transition.
ADA transition will be all public owned buildings. Just so getting someone from the parking lot to the front door. That's
so even
what that's
like
looking at.
the streets department buildings are where all that all comes under this.
All that. If the public needs to access them, we got to make sure up to that point. So
Gotcha.
we have all those parks, everything.
Oh, parks, I understand.
Well, I know. But
Street
yes,
building, I would-
yes, all public or
Okay.
facilities will be included with that. And then finally with that, the file scanning and microfilm, that is a last year project that's going to be pushing over the edge. There's a lot more files in some of those cabinet drawers than what they were expecting and what we're expecting as well. And to ensure that we can properly destroy the documents that were in that so we can clear up some room, it was suggested to do the microfilm with that as well. So included in that 42,000 is the remaining of the scanning, and I believe the microfilm was a little over 25,000 for that. So, if you want to say a little over half of that cost is for the microfilm, that will be so that we can properly destroy the documents per the records retention.
So we're getting rid of paper and microfilm.
We're getting rid of paper, putting it on microfilm, and we will have it on PDF copy. So the main goal was PDF copy, which it will be searchable. It's separated by property address. So that was our main thing. And then going through the record retention thing, it was suggested to use that we will need to have the microfilm as well. Because if the computer system went down, then we don't have any backup. So we have the microfilm as a backup for that.
No, that's okay. I guess I understand. That gives us.
The concern is the evolution of technology. As technology evolves, if the records aren't accessible, then we've got a problem. And a lot of those records are forever.
And microfilms forever? Well, I understand. Yeah, more than paper. Microfilm seems like an old technology to me. Okay. Do we have to store those the microfilm? Do we store those in a special place?
Yeah, so we'll put those in our main records room where we have our plans and stuff, and it's properly fire suppressed and all that. So that's probably where we'll ultimately put those. But then we have our property files in another. So I know it's confusing without being up there, but we have a property file and project area and then a plans area. So 2 different offices, but we got them separated. At least we know what to go. But our main goal with this is kind of, I don't want to keep tying projects back together, but
Nope.
the GIS, now we have the capability with a PDF copy of all our property files and the GIS work we're doing that we can upload some of that stuff to a property and a homeowner or someone can click on that and see their information.
Jeff, one other note, so they digitize the records, they connect them back. The way it goes to the records commission, the 2 of us have done it, Mary and myself are all on that. Then ultimately, the historic society wants to decide
On
what happens to those records.
the paper. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
So that wrapping up engineering, so moving down to municipal building, we're continuing on with the LED replacement project. We have some money from leftover on the municipal building restroom upgrades, so that 50,000 was from last year. That will be for the design portion to continue on with the ADA compliance. The elevator replacement, we actually received bids in for that a couple weeks ago, so that is a true number for that. That is not replacing the whole car. That's cables, electronics, what is needing done to make sure it's safe and accessible for people. So I know it's very expensive, but that is not replacing the whole car and everything. That is the main components on that. We did have a pre-bid walkthrough with everything on that as well. So, and then the next one, final one with that is third floor conference room. Going with the technology the technology improvements project that was up in computer service. We are going to be upgrading our kind of Zoom capabilities with newer screens, newer webcams, microphones. It will be four screens that can be as one, or they can be 4 separate screens, all on the east wall, kind of where you guys are sitting. So with that, we also looked at painting over the paneling or replacing it with drywall. It was a savings of $1,200 to paint over the paneling, so we decided let's upgrade it while we're doing everything, make sure we have good walls. So it's going to be new drywall, new paint, new furniture, and new carpet within the third floor conference room. So that should help us out with when we have business activities up there.
So we are not keeping the paneling.
No paneling.
Thank you.
We can bring it to your house if you want.
Well, I've got a room.
It might be in shrapnel.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. No, I wasn't sure from what you said, Jeremy, if we decided to paint or drywall, so.
Figured it was worth a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We bring guests in that room. I think showing that we're in the mid-2000s is a good thing.
You said on the LED replacement that there was 50,000 left over from what project?
So that was the municipal building upgrades. We had 50,000 from last year that I did not use. We kind of got the cart ahead of the horse on that. So we kind of slowed down on it, got our ADA accessibility, but I still had that money. What I'm going to be doing is that it's going to be designed to get into construction for like the first floor restroom, second floor restroom, the
not
highly
LED.
used ones.
Not the LED above.
Correct. The LED, we have 30,000
I
remaining from
misunderstood
last year. So we are putting one big package together for the whole, and we're going to be bidding that package out.
Jeremy, quick question on the elevator.
Yes.
That is to repair both of them, or cable
That is
for
both of them.
the whole thing?
Correct.
All right.
Yep. Moving down municipal court, just the cask. Don't have any funds on that right now. Still kind of working through some stuff. Tyler execu time. That the money was appropriated, I believe, in 21 or 22. I'll have to scan over and look, but no new funds on that. Their auditor's office still working through that. Income tax, the appropriation for income tax software that has been through the income tax board, property channels, and I believe they're going to be signed on that soon.
Yep, and we already allocated ARPA money towards that, so we did execute the contract and are moving that forward.
And then finally on that, the income tax postage machine. So what we do, normally that would be through a operations, but with this type of situation, we buy the equipment and then the metering, that cost is through operations. So I know that's a piece of equipment, but it's a little different than what you would normally see. So I threw that on there. It's a small cost, but I wanted to kind of distinguish between the both of them. So moving down
Jeremy,
to, yes.
Brian's got a question.
Yeah.
Just for my own clarification, the income tax computer software, are we moving towards allowing for individuals and businesses to file their income tax online? Is that what that is moving towards, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, it will update our internal systems, and then we'll also allow for e-filing. And so we expect to have that implemented by the end of this year and then usable for e-filing for next year's tax season.
Yeah, it's a very good system. We're gonna again get up to the mid 2000s here. Really cool. It's really slowly but surely.
So in park maintenance, first couple are just regular new equipment or equipment replacements. One of the big ones on there kind of going forwards is the Rawson Park tennis court. That is completely a replacement of the tennis court. So that's new fence, new asphalt, new netting, new epoxy, and all that kind of stuff with that. Our street department will be taking care of that work as part of it. And then the Riverside pool entrance, as you guys can see when you're going in there, the pavers, they're older pavers, they're starting to settle and move. So what this will be doing is removing the pavers and replacing it with stamped concrete. We have the stamp on hand from the downtown project, so mirror that. Our guys actually have done some stamping, so our street department will be taking care of that work as well. So to give you an idea of what that look will look like, it will be still a brick paver look, but it will actually be concrete. Then going down to the Emory Adam Fort Findlay Playground. This year we have a proposal from Human Nature, which is the same group that is working on the downtown project. They were selected for our design consultant for the Fort Findlay, so we're finalizing our proposal, so you guys will probably be seeing that come to council here in the upcoming weeks, but that will be doing for a redesign on that. Of the Fort Findlay playground. So you guys will be seeing that in Parks and Rec and all that kind of stuff. But we're still wanting to plan on staying with the same structure look, but it will probably not be wooden anymore.
So are those dollar amounts including the cost for what One Nature for their design and all that? Because you have 55,000 for this year and 750,000 for.
Yeah. So that, and I gotta upgrade that. So yeah, if you're looking at the project description, I know I have a typo on this. I didn't change it around, but so if you look at the project description this year, that 55,000 will cover their planning on that and design with it, and then the construction will be the following year probably on that.
But we're not increasing that. We're just going to redo the Fort Findlay design basically.
It's going to be replaced.
But
the
not
whole.
Larger.
What's that?
We're not going to make that area larger, or are we?
Not right now. I mean, it would be something to look at. That is a great central or a southern hub for the city. So we just, if we have an opportunity, it will be something to look at. But, we want to make sure what we're putting in there is actually going to be a great asset to the city. So it will be something we'll venture into. But right now we're kind of staying with the same footprint. But Human Nature has had past experience with building for different communities for a fort type structure. So it should be very interesting when we get that designed. So the next couple are restroom upgrades. Kind of going back what I said earlier about having ADA accessible bathrooms. These are needing upgraded. We actually moved a couple of them up. We had them spread throughout the next couple years. We moved them up because there was a grant opportunity through CDBG. That's what went through council last week with you guys. We're working on that application right now. But having those plans, or at least the schematics, ready to go gives us that opportunity to use those funds as they come available. So that is one of the advantages of having with that. So we were able to use that for the Rawson Swale parks, and with the Burklacker and multi-use path, we'll be looking for grant opportunities for that to get those connections through there. So like I said, in the council, we have a very, very good chance of getting that funding. So that's why I had that money set aside on there. Burklacker's out on 236. Yep. Yep. We get a lot of people. Sorry, go ahead, Randy.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so when we originally built that multi-use path on 236, yes, we want everything to be used, but it was used a lot more than what we were imagining, which is great. But there's a lot of kids and families that are wanting to get to that park because it's a nice new park. So with that multi-use connection and the Greenway Trail too, it's going to make that nice connectability throughout there. And having the restrooms will be a good stopping point before we go on with Greenway 3.
Jeremy, once those restrooms get built, will we maintain those?
Yep.
Like at Brooklocker and, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and we did have some conversations with the Historical Museum and Rick Kidwell talking about that. Part of the connectivity is right now the multi-use path ends at 236, but there's actually not a sidewalk from Heatherwood to 568 on the west side. So we have talked to them about how we can put in a sidewalk to get folks on that west side all the way to the park so that they're not crossing the street at the playground. So that would be looking at getting the restroom facilities, which right now it's just a porta-john, which is not great for the thousands of families that go through there, and then adding in the path.
And then Shelter 15, I know you guys have probably seen this for the past couple years, but this will be the last phase of this. So this is the roof replacement and also interior and exterior concrete. So that will finish up that Shelter 15 upgrades, and we'll be wrapping that up this year.
If you have not been out there recently, I would encourage you to stop by. It looks fantastic.
So moving down to rec functions.
Jeremy, before you get there,
Yep.
one quick question. Don't we spend about $70K every year on the band shell? Ballpark, just from memory.
Yeah, so the band show, we don't have any question or additional requests this year. That's just a carryover project. There
Oh,
was
that was
some
carryover?
funds. Yeah, there's some funds left over that they won't be, or that they'll still be utilizing this year. It actually might be wrapped up now, but just because it was not closed out by the end of 22, I carried it over into 23.
Okay.
But no additional funds.
Jeremy, but the roof I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The roof was put on last year.
Correct.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so I we don't put that much money into it every year. The last 3 years, I think we've put about $70,000 because we were nip tucking, resealing, new roof. They were
Right.
doing a lot of work out there, but it should be good for a couple of more years now that we've gotten those improvements made.
Okay, good. And now that Matt Stoffel's retired, any chance we turn those Rawson tennis courts into pickleball courts?
No, but we did talk about making sure that they were available for pickleball striping as well. So that is on our horizon. We are aware, but we also should have some tennis courts in town as well.
I'm not saying either way. So
Yeah, there's been other communities that had made like conversion type courts where it can be used for both purposes. That it is something we're looking into to figure out how to do that. Is that something we have to keep setting up, or is that a simple setup that the public can do? But it's something we're looking into, make it dual.
very good. Thank you.
I didn't see anything for the pool. We don't have anything coming. We haven't had any real deep discussions on the pool that capital wise.
So we have no significant plans for the pool at this point in time. I think in the next couple of years, we're probably going to have to talk about its long-term future and making a significant investment. But our team right now is doing a really good job of maintaining it through general operations.
Okay. And then the Civitan Park, we don't have a line item for that, 40 million?
Correct.
30
So
million.
we kind of went back and forth on including the design costs in there or not. And we decided that right now we wanted to just have the capital conversation. What I would see is that coming out of the general fund. And you will see that if you actually look at 2024, we have a pretty good carryover. But we went ahead and pulled that out of just for this conversation. What I would like to do is, I still continue to think that moving forward with funds to get the designs put together by the end of this year will be really beneficial. I've gotten a number of emails recently from both different local groups as well as state and federal groups that have funding available. What I really think should be our target is to get the designs put together and then planned over the next probably 5 years to put together probably 10 to 15 million of local dollars into that. That would be kind of our maximum goal, but then we can go after those state and federal dollars and local, contributions to fund the project based off of then what those final designs look like. I think it's a good opportunity to reiterate that I'm not expecting to build a $40 million park. I think we have a need to move forward with the design so that we can get a clearer picture of what that should look like. So right now we are just focused on the capital, and we didn't want that to get kind of bogged down in the conversation. But I would expect that we will go back to appropriations or to council as a whole in the next couple of weeks to discuss moving forward with the design funds of 1.3 million.
And Holly, it on the project descriptions or even in the 23 sheet, it's called Downtown Park and Rec. So it's underneath the capital improvements area.
Yeah,
I did not
downtown
include it,
recreation
yeah.
area.
So that's probably why you don't see it on part of the rec functions. I include that underneath capital improvements.
Yeah, it's the line 134.
154?
134.
34.
34.
Okay.
See it. Okay.
So rec functions, ice edger, that's pretty much if you want to say a lawnmower, small push mower type thing to get the hard to reach places for the Zamboni. The PTO 60 sports turf renovation machine. So what that is, it's kind of the jack of all trades for field management. So that has functions such as removing the high lips within the infield outfield area, aerator, dethatcher, and a infield dirt groomer. So it's an attachment that can kind of do all those. One of the big ones with that is the last phase of the Cube parking lot, phase 3, which is that big east parking lot. Along with that, so that's going to be a full resurfacing on that. What we're going to also do is look at how to, along with the ARPA funds that we have set aside for trees, how to make that more of a, a shaded green infrastructure type area instead of just paving in one big, pavement parking lot. How to get that more green space evolved into it. And then the disaster recovery generator, that is going to be ARPA funds. So what that is going to be a generator for the cube. That is not to power to keep the ice within the cube. This is only for general functions, so that way we can keep General Electric, the offices rolling. So if this needs to be a dark site for dispatch or something, or a kind of recovery site, we have that. But I just want to let you guys know this is not to keep the ice on in an emergency situation.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, Jeremy. And we've got, for $165,000, that's relatively cheap for a generator these days. So you've got enough power in there to be able to pull in all the different functions that would have to go there in a case of an emergency situation.
Yep, we had them come back in. We asked them to requote, and also for our power, that what we're needing. We explained everything what we are needing out there, and they gave us a new quote on that.
Okay, very good.
So moving down to cemetery, just a new utility tractor. That cemetery fence is a rollover from 22. They just had a couple thousand that they needed to wrap up, so it's kind of another one of those where it wasn't closed out in 22, so I had to roll it over to 23. Street department, new forklift for their area as normal, street preventative maintenance, the city sidewalks and ramps, and then right now we don't have any additional funds into the public works traffic shop. That will be another discussion that we'll have with you guys. So there's no capital funds requests right now, but we do have a pretty good design on that of how we're going to be moving forward. So you'll probably be seeing that again, but as of right now, we do not have additional funds thrown into it. So traffic signal and lights. So the first line item, that's normal stuff that they buy every year. So that's replacements of traffic signals, ped heads, or anything like that that are needing wiring. The next one with that is the West Main Cross and Southwest Street intersection. So that would be a new intersection upgrade, new poles with mast arms, ped signals, pole boxes, and stuff with that. 3 of them that we sent in last year is the Main Street Hardin and Main Street Crawford Street, and then also, as you know, you guys can see out here, the one that got struck was the Main Cross and Corey Street. So those will all be going out to bid this year. For how long it takes to get poles and stuff, normally we try to do 2 to 3 each year, but how long it was taking to get poles last year and all that kind of stuff, we waited one more year until 23, and we're going to bid these out as a package. So that way contractors, when they're looking at all them, they can, you know, change their mobilization costs as one package instead of looking at individually. So we try to do that to our advantage for that.
What is the lead time looking like on arms and poles these days? Has it gotten better over the last year?
It's gotten better. I think we were down to the 18 to 20 weeks. It was into, I think the last Main Street poles were 18 months.
Yeah.
So it has came down quite a bit.
Okay, that's good news.
Moving into airport, replace the forklift. I know we've probably said this a couple times, but they are getting a lot of cargo shipments coming in, so getting them a forklift that can make sure they can utilize that. The new shipments coming in, so that it is a replacement of their current forklift. So the next one, that rehabilitation of runway 725. So in 23, we are going to be doing the design portion, and then 24 will most likely be the construction portion of that. So in the project description sheets, I actually had that split out. There'll be 2 different project numbers, but I wanted you guys to see that the design portion is this much, and then in 24 the construction is going to be this much of it. That is funded mainly through FAA and ODOT grants, ODOT Aviation. So with all those, we pretty much only have a 5% match. FAA is 90%. ODOT Aviation is 5%, and then we're the remaining 5%. So I have that kind of broken out through there, but I wanted, they're going to be 2 different projects on like kind of our paperwork and with the auditor's office, but at least you guys can see the design to construction phasing with that. The snow removal equipment. So right now, currently, our snow removal equipment is sitting in hangars, which are pretty much has a wait list to get into. So we are going to build a new facility. It's pretty much more or less a glorified cold storage building for this equipment, which will get it out of the hangars, so that way we can have opportunities for leasing operations through that. So this will be an all new building, but only a portion of it will be concreted for the snow removal equipment, but this will give us a little bit more revenue generation as part of that. Fuel farm repairs, that's just kind of normal repairs that we are needing throughout there. It's a I gotta figure out what exactly, but what it was replacing hoses and some metering and pressure gauges.
Metering, upgrade the catwalk across the top, so some safety upgrades and things like that, and some flow meters and things that just for safety and consistency of use.
And then the next 4 projects with that are all rollovers. With FAA grants, they take a little bit longer to close out because you got to have certain time periods, and they save 10%. So a lot of these are past years. It's just rollovers that I have to include within the capital plan, but no additional requests with those.
Why don't we concrete, I mean, I know concrete's expensive, but why aren't they finishing the entire floor? Unless I'm reading wrong. The building's gonna be
Correct.
50 by
Yeah.
100, but only a 50 by 52 floor.
Yeah, so only a portion of it is. One portion is, so pretty much where their storage of their vehicles are going to be, certain vehicles will not be concreted, but the concrete area will give them an opportunity for a maintenance kind of area if they have to work on stuff, or if they have any kind of storage of, I know they don't use salt, but if they have any kind of storage, that would be on the concrete section. But talking with them, they didn't feel like it was needed to have the additional cost for the concrete for the equipment.
So just a stone.
Yeah, it'll be stone base.
Jeremy, there's $7,000 difference between the airport forklift and the street department forklift. We're not getting them the same one, we're getting them a cheaper one, or?
Different sizing and needs, because the street department one, for what they are lifting up, that is more of kind of their,
You went past it,
did I pass it?
right there.
Yeah, so that is going to be pretty much a bigger machine because of when they're bringing in sheets of steel, those add up pretty quick, where the airport one, they're unloading pallets. So the sizing and the need of it is a difference. So there is a cost difference just due to the size of it.
For the $7,000, would it make sense for redundancy to have the same thing?
Could.
Just saying, if one broke, we could use it the other place.
I mean, that's a good thought. It is something that we can discuss with
Well,
both of them.
we do
on
that with trucks, right? You guys have done a good job of doing that with dump trucks and other things. So
Definitely.
that's what, I knew it had to be a different size, makes sense, and
Right.
$7,000. But if that helps us, just a
Yeah,
thought.
no, that's a good thought. That fit their needs, but that is a good idea for, fleet maintenance on that.
I just had a random question, but on that, the building that you're building for the snow removal because you want to get those out of a hangar, do we have any idea what the potential rental income would be?
So unless you have the calculation, so each hangar is a little bit different based off of the specific square footage. So I don't know that off the top of my head. It's not going to be an immediate return. We're not making buku bucks on our hangars, but the larger thing is the increase in traffic and utilization and the fuel sales. So I would expect that you're probably going to get a return on our investment in 5 years.
Again, I was just,
Nope, that's a
if
great
you're not
question.
going to get anything on it, then we don't need to build the building. So I was just,
Because right now, those planes are going someplace else
Right.
to hangar.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a pretty significant wait list on hangars right now. So if they don't have a place to store and utilize, then they're also probably not. They might stop in periodically to buy our fuel, but if we can keep them here, that's preferred.
So that kind of wraps up the capital area or capital funding of that. So we're moving into water. So that first area is just the debt service that we have, the same as the capital one. Working with the auditor's office, we have that marched out for the 10 years. So as you're looking through that, we do have all that accounted for. And then moving down to water treatment plant, another one of those projects that has been lingering around, and we are pushing over the edge with a combination of water funds as well as ARPA funds, is the generator replacement. So right now they have 2 generators and they are not working in tandem. They're having multiple problems with them. They can't keep them running very long before they go out. So this will be one new generator that will be running the whole plant and will have redundancy for future expansion as well.
Has that been ordered yet, or?
Nope, not
Not
yet.
yet.
We're working through a couple of approvals through Wood County and EPA with
Okay,
that.
and what kind of
So
lead time are we looking for that generator?
95 to 98 weeks.
That's what I figured.
So long time.
Yeah.
So you will be seeing, I do have quite a bit of money set in this year for to purchase the generator and the automatic transfer switch. So both those can be through a cooperative agreement that we're part of as well. I think it's Sourcewell off the top of my head. I believe it's Sourcewell that we can use those. So we'll at least get the equipment purchased this year because they're both in that, ATS is in this type of automatic transfer switch is 80 weeks out, 70 to 80 weeks out.
Okay.
So
Right, thank you.
So the roof replacement, that is over the utility billing. With that, working through the deputy auditor, we have kind of how we can split that between sewer and water funds. So that's why you can see that's a split. It's a 60-40 split, but that is the roof replacement over the utility, those lower offices over on water distribution side, but it'll be the utility billing side. And then the SCADA upgrade, that is a ongoing process with that, with upgrading. And then the next one that you guys probably have seen for the past couple years is CO2 tank replacement. That will have some water funds included with that, as well as ARPA funds. We have had ARPA funds appropriated to that last year. So we are same timeline with the generator replacement. We're working through Wood County and EPA approval, so that way we can kind of get that pushed over the edge. But we're having weekly meetings on that, so you guys, for both of these, will be seeing something very soon on those. Moving down to water distribution. So we just have a couple of water lines outside of the ones you guys kind of already know of being added to this. So the Laurel Lane is a small water line replacement. It is over in the west side of town. Lot of breaks, a lot of repairs that we were needing on that. So that's a simple replacement. And then Rector Avenue is a rollover. The small water line, we did receive CDBG grant for that. So we're working on design, trying to get that pushed out here in the next couple weeks. So that way we can get a good price for that. And then the Blanchard Street water line replacement phase 2, OPWC, that we received last year. That will be extension from 6th Street down to the South Water to extend that 16-inch, if you want to call it, transmission line down through there. But that line has had some problems in the past. And then the Harrison Street one, we're actually going to be sending that out to bid here in a couple days. That's the one that I brought to council last week about changing the name to it because of what direction we wanted to go with that water line ultimately. Utility billing, so just a simple service truck replacement with that. Same thing, splitting between sewer and water on that, and then the water transmitter system replacement. That's the remaining funds to get that pushed over the edge and get that wrapped up this year. Going down to Supply Reservoir. That project's been on there a couple years. We should be sending that out to bid actually in the next couple months. We finally received our 30-inch valves. We're waiting on our 36-inch valves that we should be seeing in sometime, they said July. So hopefully we get a little bit more information on that, but we'll get that out to bid so that way we can get that underway. But that does have a timeline with ODNR. I think I've discussed in the Sewer and Water Committee meetings as well. But that we're actually at a good spot where we can get that pushed out to bid. Sampling boat, so that is just a small boat that we use out in the reservoirs for sampling and other operations.
We did ask if they could use a kayak, and they said no.
And then the reservoir docks, that is a ARPA funds, so that is upgrading the existing reservoir docks for boat launches and kayak launches at the reservoir, but all those will be coming through the ARPA funds. Any questions before we head to sewer? So sewer, this is the last year for the EPA loan of 2021, so that will be rolling off, and they will be pretty much debt free starting in 24. And as the mayor pointed out earlier, we have the annual operations in there as part of the capital plan, but that is, approved ultimately through the budget operations. Going down to sewer maintenance and water pollution. So a couple of items that we have yearly on there are the manhole adjustment program and the sewer lining, manhole lining. And then with that, I know the long-term control plan is currently being amended. But with that, I've included some money in there for 2023 to purchase some flow monitors for some of our CSOs. It's one of those good faith efforts that we want to keep with the EPA, showing that we are still moving forward with stuff. So it's the low-hanging fruit that we can easily do this year. Go ahead, Randy.
Just on the manhole adjustment program, I see we're taking water out of the storm water. We are going to make sure that that's for storm sewers only?
Correct.
For raising storm sewer manholes only and?
Yep.
Okay.
So majority of this cost is, if you want to say majority of it, is castings.
Okay.
So each year we purchase a mass amount of castings. So that way we have them readily available for sewer and for street operations. So that way when we're putting back, we don't want to have a nice new road and then someone drives over top and they hear boom, boom
Yeah.
across those. So we have nice new castings if they are needing replaced. But a lot of that cost is for castings. We did not purchase any last year. So this year it will be a little bit more purchase
And
on that.
same thing with the televising. I'm assuming that you're going to do stormwater televising separately from
Yep.
sanitary.
And we
So,
when we send those out to bid, we quantify each of them. So
Okay.
we know which ones are storm, which ones are going to sanitary.
Thank you.
So going with it, like I said, we have a lot of regulatory stuff that we do annually. One item that you guys have not seen the past couple years that we are actually going to be implementing this year again is the sewer cleaning of large diameters. We have a couple there's a couple spots where it is needing done. So working with sewer maintenance, we are implementing projects for the next couple of years, make sure that we can properly have those maintained through there. And then with that, they have a couple of truck replacements. One of the bigger ones with that is the sanitary vector replacement. So that will be a big one for 23. And then one that we've discussed and money has been appropriated and we actually have a contractor on is the automatic transfer switch. So we have that on order. We're, like I said, we are originally in that 30 to 35 week zone. So that is on order. We have contractor on board ready to go with that. In the meantime, while we're waiting on that, we're actually having them go through our system to double check a lot of things to make sure that as soon as we put this on, we don't come back to you guys and be like, well, that wasn't it, So we want to make sure that we are checking everything while we have this 30 to 35 weeks to make sure there's no other bugs in there that we need to work out beforehand. One item that we are working on is the Spring Lake sanitary upgrade. So that is all through the EPA. We are still continuing to work on with that. And all the funding, 100% of that is through the EPA with the H2 Ohio funds. That amount that I have shown on there in the grant section, we have discussed that with them as well. So that is not going to be a sticker shock or anything to them on that. But they understand that with this, and I know we've talked it through a couple of committee meetings as well, that when we're taking this over, we are going to make sure that is 100% to us, that when we are taking it, it is a new system to us. We've video cameraed everything. We've looked at everything. It is going to be an all new system because of how bad a shape it was within there. So we want to make sure that we're not lining something and in 10 years we're going to have a problem. We want a new system that's going to help the city and also give us also room for expansion if needed in that area.
And you feel very comfortable with this number being enough to redo that whole system?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So we gave an estimate off of base of what we had. So that could go up, and they understand that, but they are still on board that if that's what we want to do and they gave us the okay, that, they will ensure that we can get this pushed over the edge with them.
Just so they know that it's their baby and they're paying for it.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
And there will be more conversations held with Sewer and Water Committee on that as we're getting closer, but we're working on the design with it right now because there will be a turnover process and letters that will be need to be sent out that it will need to be on behalf of the EPA because this is the EPA come to us, not us going to the EPA. So a couple items that are rollovers are some of the long-term control plan stuff. Wanted to keep some of those open just in case I needed for, as we're doing the amendment. I have some money left over. They're not much, but at least I have it readily available for long-term control stuff, and I'm not doing additional requests on top of the flow monitors that we had. The long-term control plan amendment, we just had part of that money appropriated right now. They're actually going to be starting here in a week and a half of putting flow monitors in for the spring session, and then they'll be coming back in the fall as well to do a fall session, and we'll continue on with that. So that is an ongoing process. The West Main Cross Sanitary Sewer, we have a design with that, but We are currently on hold with the design. We want to make sure that we are working with the health department, the townships, and the county before we proceed forwards. We don't want to just extend it out, if this is not ultimately requested by the county or townships. So we will continue to work with those. So I still have that money set aside within that. And then the Washington Avenue storm grade, that will be phase 1. We received funding from OPWC to upgrade the storm sewer down through Washington Avenue. This will be adding catch basins and storm lines throughout there. This will not be curbs and all that. This will just be putting in additional catch basins or something that is needed for the kind of the grass areas that are problemsome. So we're working through that process right now of figuring out where we are ultimately needing catch basins for the water containment. But there will be a phase 2 with that as we extend on. And then the West Lincoln Street that we have a money appropriated from last year with that. So the last 3 are all rollover projects, but the West Lincoln Street, you've probably seen those guys out there. They're actively working on that right now. Any questions for sewer? And then finally, the big capital projects. So the annual street resurfacing, we did bump it up a little bit this year compared to the past couple years, but as you guys are aware, the price of asphalt and concrete has went up. So in order for us to get close to hitting our yearly average, we had to accommodate for that. We do have a concrete contractor that we're working through money right now. I've sent at least one reading through for that. So we'll be getting started here early April. They are wanting to get started, so you'll be seeing crews on that. And then the next couple, so the Bigelow Avenue, that's resurfacing Bigelow from Main Street down to Melrose. So that will be in 24. And then in 25, we'll be going from on Broad Avenue. It changes into from Melrose down to Trenton. So it's a multi-year facet. This is with ODOT funding, so it's 80-20 split, where we pick up 20% of it, and they provide funding for 80%. Then the next item with that is the Greenway Trail Phase 3. So that will be taking that Greenway Trail from 236 area down to Riverbend Park, which is the reservoirs. So the money that we have set aside right now is the design portion of that. We are working with Strand. They were the design consultants for phase 1 and phase 2. So they have phase 3 as well. That's the design portion to get that design ready to go. And then you'll be seeing construction funds in 24 and 25. But that is a 95-5 split with ODOT. Quite a few of those projects are rollover projects that are just, we have to keep on the capital plan. One of the big ones, if you want to go down to the next category, is the I-75-99 interchange. So previously we appropriated $420,000 for the design portion of that. That was part of our match money as we went for working with ODOT and the county for track funds and build funds and stuff like that. And the remaining $1 million is for our match money for the construction phase of that. So that will be our final phase of that, and ODOT will be getting that under construction here fairly soon. Probably 24, I believe it was.
Yeah, so we are part of the recommended approval through track, so we're going as part of the final list. They will be voting in 2 weeks, I believe, on the final appropriations through track, and then they are targeting a construction in 2024. And I would note we'll have extensive communication plan to the businesses, especially on the north end. One benefit of the structure of a DDI is that the existing bridge is going to stay there, so they will then build another bridge south of that one. So we should be able to the majority of traffic will be maintained throughout the project.
Back up just one. Oil ditch cleaning. I see we have 150,000 for this.
I was going to jump back up to this one.
I didn't mean to ski over it.
So back a while ago, some of you may have been around, at some point we entered into an agreement with the county saying that we would cover the cost up to $130,000, I believe, or up to $150,000, I'm guessing, since that's what you have in there. So they are finally getting close to actually needing funding, which is great after, almost 10 years.
Yeah, it's forever.
But that is the contribution that the city committed to
Okay.
10 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, sorry, didn't mean to skip part. So then, another project that we're actually going to be able to push over this year is the Western and Sandusky Norfolk Southern intersection. So that will be predemption with the railroad. So that way, what that's going to do is it's going to have pretty much double signals. You're going to have at the four-way stop, we're going to have traffic signals, and then you're going to have signals behind the tracks. So that way, when a train is a certain distance away, it will trigger those signals and it will stop people back from the intersection. So that way, no one gets trapped within the tracks. So this was a joint project that's been ongoing with the Ohio Rail Commission and also ODOT. So we got final approval with Norfolk Southern last week. I actually just received final plans. So going back to the traffic signals, we're going to be bidding all these at the same time. So like I said, we can maximize our price with mobilization and material and all that kind of stuff.
And in that project, and maybe I'm wrong, but is there a turn lane being added someplace, or?
There will be a turn lane on the eastbound and westbound of Sandusky.
Yeah, so we tried to get all sorts of configurations. I want to give a huge shout out to Jeremy. This has been a headache. I know it's been Brian, Thomas before him. We tried to negotiate to be able to get left turn signals, especially like on northbound Western. We wanted to try to get a left turn signal there, but to make the configuration work, we would have had to buy the house at the corner. So that just didn't work. So I'm really glad that we finally got approval, because a couple of times we've had to go back to the drawing board. So good work, Jeremy.
Yeah, we did look into that extensively, but it also then, learning a lot of that stuff with railroad predemption and all that on how it triggers the timing they need, the standards they have. So it couldn't work where we could get the timing to make sure we cleared, because what ultimately we don't want to is create a spot where someone's trapped. So our main goal is to make sure it's safety. So, but putting them in the east and westbound is going to help quite a bit within that area. But it will be a four-way stop, all signalized.
I can share on that. Clear back in '05, just the design for this project was over $400,000, which is what died back then. There was just no justification for it money-wise. Didn't have anything. So it's been a long time. It's been almost 20 years.
Yes, so I received the estimate back. It was in the $500,000 range, and so with that, I'm looking at Ellison. I know it's an ODOT term, but looking at that with the Rail Commission funding, we have some 629 money and also capital funds that are spoken within that. So next one, I know this has been talked about extensively as well, is 236-212. So if you look at the capital, it is very heavy right now. What I've done to ensure that we have the funding, because that is a newer grant that we applied for. I applied for that railroad grant a couple weeks ago with that, but I wanted to make sure that I still had that money set aside, because the worst, if we don't get it, I still have to widen those arms for the project. So I had that set aside. I'm hoping I don't have to use it, but I wanted to make sure that I had the money ready to go. So that's why that capital ask is so heavy for that. That's not fully for the construction. That also includes the railroad portion of that.
How much is the railroad portion?
750. It's over 700. It's because we cannot get in there right away. We cannot do the work. We can't contract it. We have to pay someone to flag for them, to inspect for them, and we got to pay pretty much everything. So that's out of our hands on that. But we've been working with him through the design, as along with Hancock Wood as well.
And we've got permission from the commissioners to do it.
We're working through that as well.
So we still don't.
We're fine.
have final?
We still need one more, so we're working on one final signature. We'll be getting that. Our attorney for that, Phil Rooney, is working on that. But we will be coming to you guys when that gets through the commissioners. I'll keep in communication with you guys where that's at. But talking with the contractor, I'm keeping up with them daily, as I'm sure as you guys have seen or heard that it's decent weather out. They're itching to get started, so they are working with us as well on that.
It's not sitting on somebody's desk that we need to spur on to sign something.
I'm reminding
Publicly.
daily of where we at on this type thing. So this is what keeps me up at night.
There was a delay at one point in time. It has been addressed when we followed up with them to get it moving. But we're in the home stretch and all signs are looking good. All the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Thank you.
So Greenway Trail Phase 2, that money has been appropriated, so no additional asks for this capital plan, but they are going to be getting started here fairly soon. The one thing we were waiting on was the Army Corps permit, and I just spoke with them today, and they said I should be getting it tomorrow. So you should be seeing crews, I'd say within a week or two, starting to get tree removal down through there. So exciting project, ready to move on with that, so you will be seeing crews. Parker Training Room remodel, so what that is that's going to have ARPA funds with that. That is going to be upgrading the bathrooms in the Parker Training Room / city gym to include women's restrooms and shower facilities, and also upgrading the men's to be ADA and building compliant. So we are working with RCM on that I actually had a meeting with them on Thursday for a schematic review, and they're working on final design for that. So that will be hopefully moving forwards here this year and getting completed. And then the next two, so Bright Road Phase 3, we have the money appropriated for that, so that can actually be changed. But that is the final phase of Bright Road resurfacing from Fostoria Avenue to Production Drive. They had a pre-con today, and it sounds like here towards the end of April they're looking to get started on that. And then the last project that we have listed on there is Interstate and FHS Trails. That is a multi-use path that's going to be on Howard Street from, if you want to say, the Walmart Drive approach over to Broad. It's going to run in the old railroad bed. So it is city-owned property through there. And then on Broad Avenue, we're going to be on the west side of Broad Avenue, and we're going to stretch from Howard up to Folk. So that way we can get a multi-use path through there, and it creates that connectability between the existing Greenway Trail. It'll get you eventually, we're going to keep working forwards to get you over to the Corey Street area, which will get you to Main Street, will get you over to Lincoln and Blanchard. So just building on with that connectability, but this is a TAP project that is a 95.5 match with ODOT. So that is all the projects that we have for 2023. So if there's any additional questions or anything, we will field them. But
Jeremy, I had real quick, Romark 629. I know we appropriated the money back in 17. Is that going to happen this year, or is that just on there because the money's appropriated? Wasn't that putting up a light at 629? And am I remembering that?
It was
correctly?
at I believe is at
In
Hamlet
212?
Hamlet and 212.
Hamlet and
So it's a
212.
rollover project with that, but I'm working with the Department of Development and stuff, or 629, to see, because of how we've designed 212 and 236,
Right.
that signal is not needed. I'm working with them to see if I can roll that money over to the 212, 236 area.
Very good. Then back to the Bigelow Avenue. I was confused on this. Why is ODOT involved in Bigelow Avenue?
It qualifies because it's a major thoroughfare for the city. So they provide our large city funds, which I know I've called them MPO, but it's they're large city funds that we get every year. It falls in their eligible streets to
Okay,
resurface.
so it's
and-
not because it's a state.
Nope,
road,
nope. It's just
obviously, okay.
we get funds every year, and there's certain major roads that we can qualify for. So that's like the Bright Road is the same funds.
Very good. That's why I couldn't understand why they were concerned about Bigelow,
Yeah.
of all places. So, okay, very good.
Yep.
questions from the committee? Mr. Auditor, good?
I had one more question on, I did not see anything for the misdemeanor facility. Are we not?
The cask?
planning- Was
Yeah,
it in
so
there?
Jeremy touched on that. Right now, we're still evaluating if it warrants it, or if the community warrants it. I'm continuing discussions with the Jail Community Advisory Committee to discuss what their game plan is there, because that would have a bearing. So we listed it on there, but right now, there's no capital ask.
Good. So, Jeremy, you're all finished? Any other questions from the committee? Very good. I need a motion to, we have no other significant changes that anybody's brought up to the plan. Is that correct? Very good. Then I would need a motion to approve the 2023 capital plan as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Palmer, seconded by Mr. Greeno. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Jeremy, thank you for all your hard work. I know you did a lot of work between today and when we had the meeting with the auditor, and obviously he was pleased with that because he didn't say a damn thing today, which is great. So, which is awesome. So, but that is really good stuff, and
Thank you.
I appreciate all the extra work you put into it. It's quite honestly very nice. It works well for us too. So, second, I'll apologize for the late start. I had a personnel issue that arrived on my lap that I could not. It's really bad form to make a phone call or a text message, and when you're dealing with one of those things, so I right when the mayor texted me, I was getting my phone to text her and tell her I was going to be late. So my apologies for that, and for the committee members, I apologize. I didn't get the notice of the date change out to you fast enough so that you were aware of it, but we'll do better on that next time. Anything else for the good of the order? Thank you for your time. If the committee members would stay here for a second and sign this before you leave.